Excel has a number of keystroke shortcuts that allow you to work efficiently within a given worksheet. In this worksheet called HR List, we have quite a few records here, over 700, and quite a few columns as well. We want to, first of all, know how big is this worksheet. Get in the habit of pressing Control-End. That's the END key. Now, many times, and this is certainly one of those times, the active cell goes to a location and there's no data there, and we might not be seeing any data elsewhere. What does that mean? Control-End. Go to the lower right-hand corner of the active part of the worksheet. We can be sure there's no data anywhere in this worksheet below row 742, nor to the right of column AE. As we scroll leftward, we're likely to see data in that row. Not always, but we are in this case. And we're probably going to see data above this in column AE at the top. Now, Control-End is a good indicator that as large as these worksheets can be, there's nothing in this worksheet anywhere below row 742 or to the right of column AE. Now, an odd thing about this, though, is that if you add data and then later take it out, Excel remembers. So maybe I'm on the phone one day and I type in a serial number and I later use that, but later I come back and get rid of this. Excel will have remembered that I put data there. And so at a different time, if I press Control-End, now the active cell goes down to row 746. Now, is it really going to be a big deal here? We don't worry about that. But over time, as you add data and copy and paste and remove data and so on, sometimes when you press Control-End, you realize that it's a bit misleading. So like in a case here, we wouldn't really need to use it. We'd simply delete the unnecessary rows here, right-click and delete. And then Control-End still would not totally adjust properly. We simply save the workbook, and from there on in, Control-End would be accurate until, again, we put data outside of that range. Now, the opposite of Control-End is Control-Home. That always takes us to the upper left-hand corner, and most of the time that's going to be cell A1. If you do have frozen titles in effect, it's going to take you just outside the row and or columns that are frozen. But that's a good handy keystroke shortcut too, because many, many times within a worksheet, we want to go to the upper left-hand corner. Now, there could be times when you need to go to a specific cell. Maybe you were working with this data yesterday, and in the meantime, you have not sorted it, but you need to go back, for example, to cell A500. So just press F5, which means go to, type A500 and press enter. So strictly keyboard here, F5, type an address, press enter. You will go to a specific cell. If we go back to the top of the worksheet here and want to go to the bottom at any different time, suppose we've been doing some editing here. We now need to add a new record at the bottom. If we double-click the bottom edge of the active cell, I'm going to do this right here, double-click, we go down to the bottom of the list. That works in all four directions. We want to go back at the top. Maybe we've added data. Maybe we just added this, or we happen to be over here doing some editing. We want to get to the top of this column. Double-click the top edge. Now, if we do this in column I, where there are lots of empty cells, it doesn't work in quite the same way. We wouldn't really be using it here. Double-clicking the bottom edge takes us right there. Double-clicking the bottom edge here takes us there, and so on. So it moves kind of in fits and starts. Now, almost the same, and most times it is the same, we can achieve the same effect. And again, sometimes our hands are on the keyboard. It's going to be faster to reach for the keys instead of the mouse. So we simply press Control-Down arrow here. Or if the active cell's in here, we want to jump to the top, Control-Up arrow. Same general idea. The only difference in the two, and it's pretty subtle and at times we don't care, and this too, by the way, works in all four directions. If we were in a situation like we see here, right there, if I press Control-Right arrow, it simply moves there. But if I were here and I double-click the right edge, it would move there. So a subtle difference in the two, not too important. But it's easy and fast to be able to quickly move up and down simply by double-clicking the bottom or top edge, or simply pressing Control-Down arrow or Control-Up arrow. So a lot of different navigation techniques there. Now, sometimes, and particularly in wide worksheets, this one is fairly wide, you might say, if we need to keep the zoom factor here and yet we want to see data off to the right, right now the first column that's not currently completely visible is column J. So as I press Alt page down, column J is now the leftmost column. For the moment, column U is not completely visible on the right. I'll press Alt page down and column U will become the leftmost column, and so on. Alt page up moves us leftward. You're probably not going to use that as often, but it could be handy in those worksheets that have many, many columns. Many different techniques using control keys to jump around between different sheets in the workbook. Remember, control page down moves us one sheet to the right, control page up leftward, and all the other various techniques we saw here, control and control home. Different techniques for navigating within a given worksheet.